Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to welcome you all here today at the first ever open evidence session of the Intelligence and Security Committee, and I'd like to welcome in particular our three witnesses, Sir Ian Lobban, the Director of GCHQ, Andrew Parker, the Director General of the Security Service, MI5, and Sir John Sawers, the Chief of the Secret Intelligence Service, MI6. Thank you, and we are delighted to welcome you, gentlemen. This session, of course, which we, as a committee, first considered a year ago, is a very significant step forward in the transparency of our intelligence agencies. Having an open parliamentary evidence session will be, I believe, of real value. Of course, we will not be asking our witnesses to reveal secret information in public. Nor will we today be able to discuss our current investigation into the tragic death of Lee Rigby in Woolwich in May, since obviously we cannot prejudice the trials of the accused, which is to take place in the near future. The Intelligence and Security Committee, with its new powers, investigates the operations and scrutinizes the capabilities of the intelligence agencies. Those sessions are held behind closed doors and must remain secret. This evidence session is being broadcast with a short time delay. This is a safety mechanism to allow us to pause the broadcast if anything is inadvertently mentioned which might endanger national security or the safety of those involved in safeguarding it. I don't expect that we shall need to use it. This is, as with the Iraq inquiry, a precaution. If I do need to suspend the session, we will resume as quickly as we can. Today's open session, being the first ever, will involve an examination of a number of issues involving the intelligence agencies. It will include current controversies. It will include the threats that the agencies are working to counter, the agencies' conduct when performing their duties, the legal and policy framework within which they must operate, whether they need special legal powers, and whether it is right and necessary for them to receive each year £2 billion of public funds to carry out their work. So after those short introductory comments, let us move straight to the question and answer part of our proceedings. My first question, if I may, is to you, Sir John. During the Cold War, the threat to the United Kingdom was pretty clear. There was the Warsaw Pact, the Soviet Union on one side, NATO on the other. Who poses the biggest threat to our national security now?
Well, thank you, Chairman, and thank you for this opportunity to give evidence here. We're very conscious of the unprecedented nature of this occasion. We'll do our best to answer the committee's questions as best we can. You ask about the threats to the UK. It's not like it was in the Cold War. There aren't states out there trying to destroy our government and our way of life. But there are a very wide range of diverse threats that we face. The biggest is terrorism, the threat from Al-Qaeda and its many, many branches. There are also states out there that are trying to do us harm through cyber attacks, by acquiring nuclear weapons, or involved in generating instability in parts of the world important to us. And of course, we always work in support of the armed forces, especially GCHQ and ourselves. And the armed forces have been very active in the last decade, and we've been very supportive of them in helping shape their operations and protecting soldiers' lives. So it's a very volatile and rapidly changing world that we're living in, and we have to have the skills, the people, and the capabilities to be able to support and defend this country's security interests wherever those threats arise.
Thank you very much. That leads me to want to ask a supplementary. Perhaps, Andrew Parker, you might like to answer it. At the end of the Cold War, a lot of people thought, well, we can now reduce the size and cost of our intelligence agencies. In fact, it's gone the other way. They're far greater, larger, and more expensive than they've ever been. Do you, as head of one of our intelligence agencies, a very secret agency, but also as a citizen, do you ever sometimes get nervous that our intelligence agencies are too strong, too powerful?
Well, you're asking both about scale and about powers, if I could take them in that order. At scale, £2 billion is a substantial amount of taxpayers' money, and we take our responsibilities in spending it extremely seriously, and that's closely overseen by this committee and audited by the National Audit Office. The scale of it is, of course, set by ministers against the backdrop of the whole of public spending. That 2 billion is equivalent to roughly 6% of the nation's defence budget. And so at that scale, we would contend and believe, and ministers clearly have been persuaded, that that is a proportionate investment against the threats the country faces. As far as dealing with the powers question, of course, the suggestion that somehow what we do is somehow compromising freedom and democracy, of course, we believe the opposite to be the case, and it's for this committee to oversee. The work we do is addressing directly threats to this country, to our way of life, to this country and to people who live here. And the work we do is proportionately judged against the necessity of protecting against those threats.